All right, I'm going to get going. It's 8:05. Welcome everybody to day 8 of the online Rankin Technical College AWD1100 C# programming class. Today, as it says, we're going to be going over not homework, some practice problems. All right, let's see. Let me try that again. See if I can get. Here we go. All right. Okay, so people are letting other people in. That's good. Okay, now in just a couple minutes, I'm going to go over the folder that I sent you all this morning. We'll talk about what's in it and a couple of other things. All right, I do want to mention I've graded all the tests. If you do go out to Inside Rankin, you'll see your test grade. Now, what I'm going to do later today is I've got a copy of the test page, and on there it has your grade, and if I took off anything, what I took off for. I will send that out to each and every one of you today. All right. Now, the other thing that I do want to do, and I'm not going to do it today, I'm going to do this as a separate lecture. I have a couple people who did not take the test. So as of right now, as you'd guess, they have a 0. I'm going to give them a day or two, but by Wednesday, what I'll do is I'll put a private video out there on the YouTube channel where I'll go through the test from beginning to end. All right. Now, the only thing I do want to say about the test, and it's not a big thing, everyone who took the test passed it. That's always a good sign. Okay, but I just wanted to mention this, and it may sound maybe I'm being a little picky here, but I just wanted you to see this. All right. So a lot of you did this, where you had like a console.write line, enter your name, and you had something like that. All right. That really should be a write, because if you put it as a write line, what happens is you get right here, you get enter your name, and then the cursor sitting on the next line. It's not that it's a big thing, but to me at least, it looks much more professional if you set it up the second way that I showed you. In other words, like this. So just please get used to, on a console program, doing a console.write instead of write line so that your cursor stays on the same line. And again, the only reason that I'm mentioning this is I've had this in the past where some people on your electronic portfolio that you'll have to create at the end of the semester, they put some of their console programs out there for a prospective employer to see, which is fine. But you want these programs that you put out there to look as professional as possible. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that. All right, so that's the first thing. Again, we're going to go over what we've done in the past. What we did last week was we went over, from these extra exercises that come with our Murach text, we went over 2.1, design a simple form. We went over 3.1, code and test the calculator letter form. And we went over 4.1, calculate area and perimeter. What I plan on doing today is I'm going to pick it up on 4.2, and I'm actually going to go over the top 4 programs that you see on your screen. Accumulate test score data, calculate the factorial of a number, calculate change, and calculate income tax. I've done all 4 of these, and I've done each one as both a console application and as a GUI application. Even though in our textbook or on here, they do all of them as a GUI app. All right, I just want to make sure people are comfortable using both types of applications. Your next test, which will be towards the end of this week, it'll be Thursday or Friday, your next test on chapters 4 and 5, I believe, has 3 or 4 problems on it. I think at least all of them are GUI problems. So you'll be creating a Windows Forms app with each one of those. Now, so then a natural question is, okay, if we're transitioning over to Windows Forms app, why are we still doing console stuff? Well, when we get down to here, down to chapter 12, and that's when the object-oriented part of the class starts, class files that you create in C# are just code. All right, they're basically the equivalent of console files. All right, so we'll be using them in unison with GUI programs and sometimes on their own. All right, So like I said, we're going to go over all of these. And before we start, though, I did send you out a folder this morning. All right. And in that folder, this is what was in there. So I quickly want to go over what this is. In fact, let's just bring this up big. All right. So look, this is what's in it. There's about 10 or so files in it. The first one, the first 4 are the pictures of what we're going to be making. So this is the first one we're going to create here. All right, this score calculator, and you can see it looks similar to things we've done before. So you put in 98, you click add, it adds 98 to your current score total, it increments your score count by 1, then it takes the 481 and it divides it by 5 to get the 96. So it keeps a running total. All right. And in fact, I believe just about, not all of them, but pretty much all 4 of these that we create will be a calculator of one form or another. So that's the first one that we'll create. Then we're going to do this change calculator. All right. And you put in a number between 0 and 99 in here, and it tells you the number of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies that'll make that, make that up. So again, for 68, 2 quarters, 50 cents, a dime, 60 cents, a nickel, 65 cents, 3 pennies, 68 cents. All right, so it's trying to give you your most optimal type of change. In all of these, just so you know, in this one and in the other ones, I put a clear button in there as well, as I've been doing. All right. Then next, we're going to do probably the hardest one that's in here, and this is that factorial program. And there are different ways of writing a factorial program. I'm going to explain to you the act of writing something recursively, all right, which some of you might find confusing. The good news is, to my knowledge, you'll never have a test where you've got a problem on it that uses recursion, all right? So we'll go through that calculator, and then finally we'll do an income tax calculator. Whereas it says you put in how much money you made, and then it comes back and tells you how much money you're owed. All right. So I've sent you a image of each one of those. Now, the next thing, and some of you have been contacting me and saying, hey, I'm a little confused here, so I want to show you something here. I'm going to start up Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to make a garbage project. In fact, I'm going to get rid of it a little later, so I always like to come in here and make my folder basically called either junk or garbage to make sure I know that's what it is. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new project. And this is where some people in this class have told me that they're having a little bit of problem. And that is, what is the difference between Windows Forms app and Windows Forms app.NET Framework? What's the difference between console app and console app.NET Framework? All right. What I had been doing with you in the first 3 chapters is when we created an app, be it a Windows Forms app or a console app, what we had been doing for the entire semester is we've been using the .NET Framework. That's actually not recommended because that's considered old school. And what I mean is, anything with .NET Framework, all right, those are the older forms of everything. And actually, they were designed to work with Windows, and they weren't designed to be multi-platform and work with a Mac or Apple machine or a Linux machine, etc. Whereas the newer ones, the Windows Forms app and the console app, all right, they are designed to work with those. Now, I'm going to quickly, and I mean quickly, all right, I'm going to go through each one of these because I want to show you something. So I'm going to start with what we've been doing. I'm going to choose console app.NET Framework right here. So I'll double click on this and I'll just give it a name. So this will be console 01. Again, I'm not going to do anything with these. I just want you to see this. I'm going to put it into a solution that's just going to be called garbage. All right, you don't have to follow along, but I'd like you to watch if you would, please. And I'm going to change my folder to garbage here. All right. All right, so why am I showing you this? I want you to see .NET Framework 4.7.2. So when I click Create, there's going to be, this is what gets built for me. It gives me some using files, all right? And it doesn't know exactly what I'm going to be working on yet. Typically, you'll almost always, when you're working in here, at least need the using system. We won't need the collections generic or the link, etc., for quite a few chapters yet. All right. But the other thing it does here too is it gives you a namespace. That namespace is basically the name here. All right. So it's the name of your project, and it says internal class program, and it gives you a main. So it sets this stuff up for you. And you might say, well, that's fine. Why are you even telling us this? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. Right now, I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to choose add new project, but this time I'm not going to choose console app.net framework. I'm going to choose console app. All right. And again, I'll just call this one console 02. All right. It knows to put it into the same solution we've been working in. So if I click next, now notice the difference. Previously, it told us here that we were using 4.7.2. Now we're using version 8, which is what I have loaded on this machine. And what's the big difference? Well, it's version 4.7.2 versus version 8. Much of the stuff that's in your book talks about putting stuff in with version 7 or above. You cannot do most of that stuff if you do the .NET Framework one. Most of it won't work. Here it will. That's the good news. Now I'm going to show you the bad news. All right, if I click Create, you'll notice it gives me almost nothing here. This is just a comment, all right, which I wouldn't need anyway, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And then it just gives me a console.write line. That's all it gives me. So what I provided for you this morning in this folder that I gave you that has all the, it's called For Students 122, is you'll notice here, there is a file that's called console.txt. And if I open up that file, all right, I'm going to go and just copy it into my program right now. I removed everything that was there, and I'm going to copy this in. All right. Now, two things. First of all, okay, I just want you to see this, and that is this console, that is not the right name right now because it should be console 02. So I manually come in here and change this to 02. But now I've got everything typed in here so I can start to create my program. All right, just the same way that I could come into this one, though the first one, I could come in here and just, just do a, console dot write line, hello. All right, again, I'm not doing anything with this program and it would work. So if I put a read line after this, so a console dot read line, all right, oops, like that, and I save this. So again, this is, I'll say hello console 01. All right, and I'm going to save this and I'm going to run it. And what you'll notice is hello console 01. Nothing surprising there. All right. Now, if I go to the other one after I've made these additions, I'm going to just copy this. All right. But I'm going to put in this one, hello console 02. All right. And remember, once I do that and I save here, that I have to right mouse click on the name of my project, console 02, right mouse click on it and choose set as startup project. So that one is going to run now. Now, when I run this, hello console 02. All I'm trying to show you is we've got to do a little bit more work to get this one to work, but I gave you the file that you're going to have to copy in. All right. And after you copy that in, again, it's your responsibility to change your namespace to whatever the name of your project is. All right. So a natural question then would be, fine, why the hell do we have to even do this? Well, I went out online today and looked, and they mention here, now this is Stack Overflow, stackoverflow.com. If you've never been out here, in a way, it's kind of like Facebook for developers. All right, that's not a fair way to put it, but that's how I'm going to put it. You can actually go and post questions out there. I will tell you, if you post questions out there that are simple, you'll have people who will call you stupid on here. How do I know that? From personal experience. All right. I posted a question out here years ago that I thought was a good question, and evidently the people that I posted, when I posted out here, they didn't agree. And they, said basically, what a dumb question. All right. That was the best answers that I heard. All right. But it says here, the Windows Forms app versus Windows Forms app .NET framework is kind of what I told you. The .NET framework is older and runs only in Windows. All right. With the non.NET framework, it's newer and it's what is recommended that you use today. All right. So that's kind of, where we're going to. Now, I'm going to save this. And I'm going to close both of these. All right. And I'm going to close this up here and up here. Now I'm going to create two Windows Forms apps. Now, unfortunately, it's even a little bit quirkier when you work with Forms apps. All right. So I'm going to click on here, right mouse click, choose Add Project. And first I'll do the old one. So I'll do the Windows Forms app.NET framework. All right. And again, we'll call this GUI, graphical user interface 01 right there. All right. And again, you'll notice the same thing, 4.7.2. We can go up to 4.8, but you can't go up any higher than that. So if I click create, this is what we've been working with. All right. So again, just keep it simple. I'll put a button on here. Double click. In fact, let's change the name of the, let's just do it like this. Let me get rid of this. I don't know if this will work now or not because I should have changed the name of the form first. But remember, we talked about this. You should change the name of the form right away. So rename it, and I'll just call this FRM GUI 01. Comes back and it says, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I am. Now it gave me that error, and it gave me that error because in my Windows designer file, all right, there was an inconsistency. I'm going to just go back and change this again to Form 1. All right. And when I do that and change this back again, this is why, again, you should change the name of your form first. But when I put Form 1, it'll be back. All right. So come on. There it is. All right. So why am I telling you this? Well, if you look in here, if I go into my code view, it's got a bunch of using statements, the namespace, and a bunch of other stuff for me. And that's good. But when I come down here and I'll rename my button. All right. I'll just rename it. So I'll come over here and I'll rename the button BTN Hello. All right. And it'll say on here for the text, we'll just put hello. All right. And I can change the size of the font. I don't care right now. But I'm going to double click the button and notice it says btnhello.click. All right. So if I put up here message box, whoops. So message box dot show hello. All right. You've seen this before. I'm keeping it real simple. And I run this. Of course, I've got to change again my active project. So right mouse click on here and right mouse click on there and choose set as startup project. Now we can run it. And when I click on here, I get hello. There's nothing surprising there. I get that. All right. But I'm going to stop this and I'm going to create the other type of Windows Forms app. And it's not as nice, so to speak. So file, save all. Let's just close all of these. All right. And now I'm going to go in and create one more. So I'm going to come in here and do an add. new project, and I'm going to choose not the .NET framework, but Windows Forms app right here. All right, I'm going to call this GUI02, and I'm going to click Next. Just like before, we get what framework do we want to use. All right, so I'm going to click Create. Now, what you'll notice right away is this takes more time to load. The other one loaded and put the new form in there almost instantaneously. This one takes a little longer. Not that that's a real big thing. But again, now I'll do it the right way and right mouse click on here. All right, try that again. Click on it, right mouse click. Well, there usually is a rename on here. There isn't, of course, but that's fine. All right, I can probably even go in and manually rename this. It's not that big a thing. All right, but I want to show you two things. When I view the code, you'll notice none of those using statements are there. All right, this is there. This is the same pretty much as what we saw before. All right, it's pretty much the same thing, but none of the using statements are built into this. But there's also something else. And this is what I don't like about doing it this way. All right, so I'm going to come in just like before. All right, and I'm going to add a button. I'm going to do virtually the same thing I just did. All right, so there it is. Now, watch what happens when I double click the button. First, let's rename it. So I'll rename it BTN Hello, just like before. And I'll have it say hello on it. All right, now when I double click on it, what happens? Okay, well, that time it said BTN Hello, click. Sometimes it doesn't say anything. Literally nothing comes up on the screen. If that happens to you, then what you'll want to do is go in and on these files that I gave you, find the one that says exit.txt right there and open that up. Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry. It's GUI.txt and open that one up. And you'll have to manually key it, copy this in there. All right. So what I'm telling you is sometimes, all right, and I feel fortunate or unfortunate, but sometimes when you put a button in, it'll show like this. Other times, let's try to add another button and see if it shows, because it doesn't always work that way. All right. So sometimes when you put a button in like this, and I'll change the name of this one to BTN Goodbye. All right. And when you double click on it, there it's showing it again. That's good. All right. Now, because of the fact that when we looked at the other one here, it had these using statements on it, and yours doesn't, you might say, well, why didn't you copy those in? I don't believe you have to now, but if there's something you need in here and you don't put it in the other one because you created it as a non .NET framework application, it'll basically prompt you to put it in. And as I've shown you before, anything that's gray in here really isn't even necessary, so you can remove them. All right. So that's the biggest difference between the two. All right. So you might say that's all fine and dandy. Why are you even telling us this stuff? Because what we're going to start doing right now, is we're going to start building these programs right here. All right. I'm going to do the accumulate test score data. All right. And we're going to do that. And again, we're going to do it as both a console app and as a GUI app. But I'm going to create everything I do today. I'm going to create not using the .NET framework. All right. And why? Because we want to be able to go in and use some of the newer features and functionality. This is the old one. If I go in here and I click on project and I go to GUI properties, you're going to notice there's not a whole heck of a lot in here, but it says target framework 4.7.2. All right. So it only understands things up to 4.8. Why do I tell you this? Because if I bring up the other one, all right, the second example we looked at, this one, and I go to project properties, now you'll notice it looks a lot different. And it says, oh, you're using .NET 8 for your target framework and your target operating system. These you can change or leave alone. But you're able to use a lot of the stuff now that you aren't able to use doing it by choosing .NET framework. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. All right, kind of a long explanation, but I wanted you to hear it. All right, the other thing I want to tell you quickly in here, because I don't need this anymore, so hopefully it'll let me just remove it. All right, and the other thing that's in here is I put the comments right from the textbook for each one of these in there. All right, so when you look here, there's 5.1, there's 4.2, there's 5.3, there's 5.2. I am going to be putting these all in here. Now, whether or not, if you're going to follow me, whether or not you copy these in, totally up to you. But that said, you really should get used to writing at least some comments in your code. All right. Because again, if you don't, you kind of, for lack of better words, you're going to look like a sloppy developer. All right. Now, you may or may not agree with that, but it is the way that it is. And the other reason, there's two reasons that you document code. All right. One is in case you have to go back and look at it later so you have an idea what you did and why you did it. And that's important. All right. The other one that's also important is, at times at least, you're going to create an application. Somebody else is going to come in at a later time and they're going to modify that application, or they'll have to maintain that application. All right. And what's going to happen then, all right, what's going to happen is if you have put no documentation in and they don't understand why you did what you did, they're going to start camping out on your doorstep and they want to be your best friend. All right. Literally, I'll tell you this very quickly and then we're starting. And that is, I was a programmer at AT&T Bell Laboratories. Okay. I was a programmer out there. And let me see, is somebody trying to get in or not? Hopefully, if you were, you've gotten in. All right. But I was a programmer and I had worked on something and I thought I documented it really well. Okay. I went on to something else at Bell Labs. Then I left Bell Labs. I went into teaching for 3.5 years. I went back into industry. I was working for an aerospace company for a year. All right. Talking about 5 or 6 years later. And I literally got a phone call. I don't even know how they tracked me down, but they did. And this woman who ended up having to go and maintain my code, she said, "Hi, Jeff, this is Kathy." I remember her, nice person. I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you remember that code that you wrote about 5 or 6 years ago?" And it was called RTA, for routing and terminal applications. And I said, "Nope." And I hung the phone up. All right. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I wasn't trying to be mean or rude or anything else, but it was like 5 or 6 years later. I don't remember what I did. I thought that I put plenty of comments in there. All right. At this aerospace company, I was there for a year. I didn't like it after I was there for a week. All right. And I wanted to quit. My wife said, "No, you're giving it a year no matter what." So I did. And they had me write an order entry system for them. All right. When I got done with it, it was approximately 12,000 lines long. Out of those 12,000 lines, approximately 1/3 of them, 4,000 lines in the program, were comments. I put entire program runs in my comments. And I did that because of the fact that after I left there, I didn't want to be bothered by anybody saying, "What did you do here? Why did you do this? Why did you do that?" The person who did end up taking over for me, his name was Mark. And I said, "Mark, do you understand all this?" And he just laughed. He said, "I've never seen anything so documented." He said, "How could I have a question when you put all that stuff in there?" So you comment for two reasons. in case you've got to look at it at a later time, and in case other people have to go and work on your code later, maintain your code. All right, so let's start. Okay, now the other thing I want to mention is, if you remember last week, I created a folder called C# practice. And in that C# practice folder, all right, if I go in and open it up, so I'm opening up the solution file, and inside of there, we had practice 0101, 0102, 0103, etc. So all of these are in there. All right, 5 of them, it looks like. I'm going to continue with this folder. I want to say that again. I'm going to continue with this folder. And I'm going to call these practice 2. I'm going to call these like practice 0201A, and that will be the console. Practice 0201B, and that'll be the GUI. All right. I would strongly suggest that if you can, you try to follow along with me. And if you can't because you think I'm going too fast or you think you're going to miss something, I understand that. But the way you get an A in this class is to write as much code as you possibly can. So otherwise, if you go back in later and follow me on the tape or whatever, all right, that might end up helping you. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to the solution. I'm going to add a new project. It will now be a console app, not a console app.NET framework. I could, but I'm not doing it that way. I'm choosing console app, and it's going to be called, what do we call these? I think it was practice, right? Yeah. All right. So this will be practice 02_01. You know what? We'll say C for console. All right. So I put all that in, and I'm just going to click next. Again, we want version 8. I'm going to click create. Again, it's got this garbage in there that I don't need, so I'm going to remove it. I'm going to go back to that file that I gave you today. I'm going to find the one that's called console.txt, open it, copy all this, and I'm going to paste that right in here where we're working, right there. Again, I want to change this from console to practice 02_01C. Practice 02_01C. All right. Now I should be good to go. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that prologue in there. What do I mean? I'm going to put in the same thing that I sent you. In fact, I don't even need to do this. Get rid of that. And what I mean is, if you look, one of the files I sent you today, where is it? Is right there. That's the comment that's right out of your PDF for the exercises. So I'm going to comment all this, or grab all this stuff, copy it to the clipboard, and paste it right here. All right. Okay, so that's got everything in it basically for some internal document. All right. So what we want to do, if you remember, I'm going to go back and show you the picture. All right, this is what we're going to do right now. All right, now what they say in the textbook is you can assume that the people running this program know that they should put a number in there. No, you know what happens, as the saying goes, when you assume. So what I've done is I have modularized this. So I wrote different routines for things. And B, I assume the person running the program doesn't know what they're doing. All right. So if you say I don't understand, hopefully you will in a couple minutes. From main, I'm going to end up using main as what's called a driver. So rather than doing code in main, I'm going to have main call other routines that do the code. All right. And before I do that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to declare and initialize 3 program constants. All right. They'll all be, or the first 2 are integers. So the minimum score I'm assuming somebody is going to put in is 0. The maximum score that I'm assuming somebody is putting in is 100. All right, I'm assuming that these are test scores. All right. The other thing I'm going to do, and we didn't do this before, so I'm showing you something new here, is I'm going to use what's called a sentinel value. I'm going to give my program a way to stop. All right. How do I do that? I created a string variable that I called stop program. And I set it equal to, it's a string, so minus 999. So what I'm going to tell the user when they start to run the program is to enter a score between 0 and 100 or minus 999 to end the program. All right. Okay. The other thing I want to do in here, so those are my constants, is I'm going to create some variables that we were calling class variables, meaning they're available to any routine we're about to write in the class. All right. Any routine that we're going to write in there, without having to pass them around back and forth. So again, I'm going to now, declare and initialize my class variables. Okay, and I've got 4 of them. Now, since these class variables are going to work with main, and since main is static, all of these variables will have to be static. If they're not, I'll get an error when I try to use them. So static int current score, and I'll set that equal to 0. Static int score total, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. Static int score count, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. And static decimal score average, and I'm going to set that equal to 0M. And what are these 4 things right here? Actually, you should be able to figure that out pretty simply, because they're these 4 things right here. This is current score. This is score total. This is score count. And this is score average. All right. So those are going to be my 4 variables that I'm going to be working with in here. All right. Now, I want to set main up so that if I want to, I can run this program multiple times. So I can put in 2 or 3 scores. Oh, I want to start over again. Start over again and put in 2 or 3 more scores, etc. So how am I going to do that? Well, in main, I'm going to call 3 routines I haven't written yet, but I'm going to surround those 3 routines with a while loop. So I'm going to say while current score dot toString not equal to stop program. All right. Do I expect that to make sense? No. Current score is going to be whatever I enter from the console for a score. All right. If it is equal to this, remember when you enter something, it's a string. So if I put in 999, I'll want to stop the program. So while it's not minus 999, I'll want to do these 3 things. All right. I'm going to call 3 different routines here. I'm going to get 3 errors because none of them have yet been written. So I'm going to call input test score. All right. Then I'm going to call update totals. And finally, I'm going to call print all statistics. All right. Now, I haven't written any of these yet, so I'm going to take these 2 because I want to just concentrate on this one right now. So I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to comment them out for now. I'll uncomment them momentarily. So now I'm down to just 1 error. Okay, so let's write our input test scores. As soon as I type in static void input test score, now that error went away. I could actually put the other ones in too. I could put in static void update totals and static void print all statistics. And if I did that, these two errors would go away as well that were in here. But let's just do them one at a time. All right. Every time I go in to enter a new test score, all right, I want the screen to clear. Okay. And if you say, well, why would you want that? You'll get it hopefully as we go on. So I'm going to tell it here to clear. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to create my variables. String, score string equals nothing, and bool result. You saw me do this last week. This is going to represent the score that I read in. This is going to represent, I'm going to check it to make sure that it's numeric, and I'm going to check it to make sure it's between 0 and 100. And if it's not, result will be false. If it is valid score, result will be true. All right. So I'm going to tell it to, I'm going to now input a test score between 0 and 100. And I'm going to do that. Like I told you, I'm going to use a right here, not a right line, but a right. And I'm going to also use some string interpolation here. All right. And I'm going to say enter test score between, and it'll be min score. So that'll say between 0 and max score. Now, if I left it right there, it would be okay. All right, so enter test score. That will now say enter test score between 0 and 100. But I also want to let the user know they can also enter 999 to end. So I'm going to put in here or, and that was stop the program to end. All right. Now I'm not going to do anything else here other than for now, just so we've got something here. I'm going to put in a read line just so you can see this now. All right. And I'm going to save this and run it. It's not doing much right now. But notice what it says. Oops. Sorry, I got to change my start project. So let's right mouse click, set start project. There we go. And you will notice it now says just what I put in there. Enter test score between 0 and 100 or minus 999 to end. All right, good. That's exactly what I want to have happen. I'm going to add one more thing here, and that is at the end of this, I'm going to put in a /T because it'll put in a tab space for me. All right, now I'm going to say score string. This is that string equals console.readline. We've done this before several times. So this will say enter a score between 0 and 100 or minus 999 to end, and then this will allow you to put in the score. All right. So the first thing I want to do in here, there's going to be 3 checks I have to make. First of all, I want to check to make sure, what if they entered nothing? All right. So if they entered nothing, okay, I don't want to go any further. Check for empty test score, input it. All right. So if that score string, score str dot trim to remove any leading or trailing spaces, if it's equal to nothing, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a write statement. All right. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry, a write line statement that says score cannot be empty. Please try again, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is put a read line after that, but I want to tell them to run this again. So I'm going to call this routine again. Now, how do I know if this works? I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it. So file, save all. All right. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in nothing. Score cannot be empty. Please try again. When I hit enter, the screen should basically clear and it should come back again and tell me enter test score between 0 and 100 or minus 999 to end. And you can see it does. So now I have handled a lack of input being in there. All right. So I've handled no input. That's good. And I said there were three things we had to handle. One was no input. Number two is what if we put in minus 999? So I'm going to check here for minus 999 input. In other words, program end. All right. So if that's the score string equal stop program, that means I did indeed enter minus 999. All right, so I'll let the user know. So I'll put in a write line here that says program exiting normally. And the way you typically normally exit a console program is you say environment.exit 0. Let's see if that works. So you've already seen this. If I put nothing in here, I get that error. It tells me to do it again. If I put in minus 999, says program executing normally. All right, now it gives you this message, but as soon as I hit space, I'm back. All right, so those two things work. All right, then the only other thing I have to do, and what I'm telling you in English is if I get down to here, okay, so this checks for no input. So if I get to here, there was input. So I check to see if it was 999, program end. But if I get down to here, there was input. It was not minus 999. All right. But I still have to check. So what I'm going to attempt to do now is to parse this. I'm going to attempt to parse this, convert it into now a number. So I'm going to say here, so I'll put another comment here that says, check for non-numeric or OOR, which is out of range, test score. So in other words, less than 0 or greater than 100. So I'm going to say result. That variable is what I set up right up here, bool result. So result is equal to int dot try parse score string, and I want to put the output into what I called current score. All right, forget about that for right now. So again, that is attempting to take whatever value I put in there and to parse it. Well, what's the problem? I could have put something non-numeric in. If it's blank, I already handle it right here. All right, if it's negative 999, I handle it right there. But if I put in hello, or I put in a negative number or a number greater than 100, that's what I want to handle here. So if, when I do this, that result is false, that means I had bad input. So if the result was false, or the current score that I put in is less than the min score, or the current score that I put in is greater than the max score. So if it's one of those, let me put these over multiple lines so you can see everything I'm doing here. All right. So if one of those things happened, well, kind of like before, I want to give you an error message. and I want to just call the routine again, but it's going to be a different error message now. So not score cannot be empty. I'm going to change this to non-numeric or out of range score input. Please try again. All right. So let me try this. File, save all. Now you've already seen this. If I put in nothing, if I put in, I don't want to do the -99. We'll do that at the end. But if I put in, let's say, hello, non-numeric or out of range, please try again. If I put in something out of range, non-numeric or out of range, try again. And if I put in something out of range that way, the same thing. So now, if I do put in a test score that's within range, let's say 87, nothing is happening because I haven't told anything to happen yet, but it's accepted the valid score. Okay? All right. Okay, so let's go on. That's everything in this routine. So now I've got to write my routine, and this is the next two routines are very short. They're only 3 or 4 lines each. So we'll do those, then we'll take a break. All right. So now let's write our update totals. As soon as I uncomment it, I get an error because it hasn't been written yet. So let's write it right now. Static void update totals. Well, what totals do I want to update? Well, first, I want to add 1 to my score count. That's how many scores I've entered. You know now we can say score count plus plus, and that'll add 1 to it. Or we could have said plus plus score count, or we could have said score count plus equal 1, or we could have said score count equals score count plus 1. So any of those would have worked. All right. That's the first thing. Next, we want to add the current score to our score total. That's the total of all scores. So score total plus equals current score. Finally, we want to calculate the current score average. All right, I should say the current average. And how are we doing that? Well, we're going to say score total divided by score count. Again, looking at the example that we had, it's like we've got 481 and we want to divide it by 5. Now, we didn't have to do this. We weren't told to do this, but I made this a decimal so I can have 2 decimal places in here. Now, the problem is when I say score average equal score total divided by score count, that's going to throw away any decimal portion that I have. One more time, that will throw away any decimal portion that I have. So to keep that, I will cast here and make that a decimal. All right. Now there's one more thing, and that's print all statistics. Again, this is 5 lines long. Then we're taking our first break. All right. And we're going to have 4 write line statements and then a read line. So I can now remove that read line that I put up here before. All right. And I'm going to put in 5 write line statements. Okay. 4 write line statements. And then our read line. I've got to put stuff in those write lines. So let's do that. And this, I'm going to use string interpolation here. Couple blank lines, score, \t, current score. So that's going to be the score that I just inputted right there. All right. Then next, we're going to have the score total. And then next, we will have the score count. Space it in there. There we go. All right. And then finally, we'll have our score average. And I'm going to format that to 2 decimal places. And that is the program. I don't know what it doesn't like, so let's check. Print all statistics. All right. And I put private there. I should have put in static. All right. So now I have no errors down here. Now it's telling me, it's giving me 2 warnings, and it's saying this thing about nulls. Could we get over that? Yeah, remember we could come in here and put in that exclamation point to allow nulls. I don't want there to be nulls. So I'll put up with these 2 warnings. So let me do a file, save all, and then let's run it. All right, I'm going to put in 3 valid test scores. I'm going to put in a 50, an 80, and a 100. So 50, notice, okay. So right now there's been a score of 50. That's my total. That's my count. That's my average. Now I'm going to put in an 80. 50 plus 80 is 130. 130 divided by 2 is 65. Finally, I'm going to put in 100. All right. 130 plus 100 is 230. 230 divided by 3 to 2 decimal places is 76.67. So we have now completed, and I'm going to save this when we get done. I'm going to put it out there as a GitHub repository, but we now have that one done. All right. So let me close this. When we come back from our break in just a couple minutes, then I'm going to redo this one, and I'm going to redo it as a GUI. So it looks like what you see right there. All right. It is 9:03. Let's take 12 minutes, please. I've got to refresh my water and come back at 9:15, and we'll pick it up right there. All right, it's 9:15, so I'm going to start back up. You'll notice if you look on the screen right now, this is the form we're about to build. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4 labels, 1, 2, 3, 4 text boxes, and out of those 4 text boxes, 3 are read-only, 3 buttons, a clear button, an exit button, and an add button. So I'm going to try to make it look as much like this as I possibly can. And I'm going to leave this up because we're going to be able to use a lot of the code that's in here. All right, but I'm going to start by right mouse clicking on our solution, choosing add, new project. And again, this one will be a Windows Forms app, but not the .NET framework. And as I said, I'll call this in practice 02_01 G for GUI. Okay, so there's that. Again, we want the long-term support, so I'm just going to click create. Looked like this form was almost square, so I'm going to modify it so it looks like that. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is to come into my form here and rename it. I'm going to call it FRM score calculator. Yes, I want to change it. Okay, that looks like it took it okay. All right. Then, because I like to do this, well, we're supposed to write here score calculator for the text. So now you can see that up here. I'm going to change my background color. And I'm going to come in and add my formulas. There we go. Looks about right. I'm going to add my 4 text boxes. And my 3 buttons. There were 2 here and 1 was up here. Move this over just a little bit. There we go. And that pretty much is my interface. So let's do a Control-A to highlight everything. And I'm going to change the size, as I always do, to 20 bold Arial. And the other thing I'm going to do, as long as this is all highlighted, is I'm going to lock my interface into place. All right, so that's all done. And again, as I go through this, what did we have here? Well, we've changed that, but we have to change each one of these. I think that was score. Let's look. Score, score total, score count, and average. So this is the score. So we will make that LBL score. Say score. This was score total. right. This was score count. And this was average. Those are done. So this one now will be TXT score. This will be TXT score total. TXT score count. And TXT average. All right. Just because I like to do this, I'm going to center these. And then I'm going to center these. All right, then I'm going to add my button stuff. So this is add. So I'll make it BTN add. We will put the text on it, ampersand ADD. This one is clear. So C ampersand LEAR. And it'll be called BTN clear. And the last one is our exit. So it'll be BTN exit. And it'll be E ampersand XIT for the text. All right, I think I've renamed everything. Let's double check. And it looks as though I have. Good. All right, so we'll want to do our add first. There, now notice it didn't show. All right, so I don't have that. Even though I double clicked on it, it's not there. So what I'll do is I will go out to that file I sent to you. All right, wherever the heck it is, there it is. Copy this, paste it in, and then change this because this one was BTN add. All right, and I will go to the next one. Double click. Again, it doesn't show. So again, I'll paste it in and make this one BTN clear. And then one more time. And that can stay as BTN exit. Do what I'm always do here, and that is I'm going to type in exit program or not. I'm going to copy that in, and I gave, again, even though I sent it to you previously, I sent it out again. So you should have that. There it is. All right. And for my clear button, I'm going to call clear the form or clear form, whatever you want. Now, when you look on here, it's up to you what you want to clear. All right. I'm only going to clear my score. I'm going to keep the total up, the count up, and the average up. So that's the only one, just TXT score. So I'm going to clear that and set the focus there. That's all I'm doing in my clear routine. All right. So TXT score dot text equals double quote TXT score dot focus. That's the whole thing. All right. Now I can come in and test these. After I set, of course, my active project. All right. Now I haven't gone in and done anything with my buttons or moved it over. That's okay. But I'm going to just put garbage. I even left these. These are going to be read only in just a minute. But clear works up. These don't work because I didn't want to clear those. So it is working. And exit is working as well. All right. So a couple things I want to do first before we get started. First of all, I want to go back up to the top here. And from that last program, I want to copy in this. It's just my program. It's called a program prologue. It's just a comment. All right. Then next, after I've got this, so right there, I'm going to copy in a lot of the stuff I did before. In other words, my constants and my class variables. All right. Now I'm going to make a change in just a minute to some of it. So I'm going to paste that. These do not have to be static because I'm not working directly with main anymore. So I've got all that stuff, same stuff I had before. All right. So now I've got add, and I call this just attempt to add test score. And then update totals, just like before. And just like I did before, I'm going to comment this one out. All right. And I'm going to put the first one in now. So private void attempt to add test score. All right. And I can put the other one in right away. It doesn't matter. So I can type in private void update totals. And now I can uncomment that one. All right. You're going to notice just how much is similar to what I did previously. All right. Now, I wouldn't normally do this. I'd normally type it, but I don't want to sit and have to watch me type. So I'm going to go back to the program we just did, and I'm going to go back to that input test routine. We don't have to clear now, so I don't need that line, but I'm going to grab everything we put in there. All right. And I'm going to paste it in. So it's going to go in to attempt to add test scores right there. Now I got to change a bunch of stuff. Those write lines are all wrong now. There's no read lines, but I've got my basic logic in here. So my score string, I can say now my score string, what is that? It's equal to txt score dot text. I didn't have to even make a score string. I could just use that every time, but I'm doing it this way, just for something a little bit different. All right. So I don't have to tell it to enter a test score anymore, but I do have to check to see if it was empty. So if it was empty, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to show an error message. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to write, you've seen me do this, private void show error message. This is my own routine, string message, string title. All right. Then message box dot show, and it'll be message, and it'll be title, and then it'll be my, whoops, sorry about that. Then it'll be message box buttons, okay, and it'll be message box icon dot error. So that's done now. So I'm going to replace these up here, these write lines, with what? With our show error message. Now it's going to give me an error because that's okay, non-numeric or whatever. Well, that's one of them. Okay, I'll get the other one in just a second. But I'm going to say here, in this case, I did the second one first, stupidly. But I'm going to say invalid input, something like that. And I no longer need this read line here, and I no longer need this input test score here. Let's go back and do this one first, because this is where it should have been. So if this is empty, okay, again, I want to do a show error message. All right, and it says score cannot be empty. Please try again. All right, that's fine. And I'll just put in here score text box empty. Put whatever you want to put in there. It doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to say txt score dot focus. And I don't need this, and I don't need that. So if we leave it blank, we're going to give them a message and just put our focus there. All right. Then we have to check. We don't have a stop program anymore. We could put that in there, All right, but we really don't even need to stop program anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that because we have an exit button. So I don't need this at all in here anymore. So the only other thing I have to check for is what I already showed you, and that's out of range. All right, so the same stuff we did before. Okay, now the only other thing is this means we put bad input in. So I'm going to say txt score dot text equals nothing, and then txt score dot focus. Now I should be able to test all this stuff right now. All right, so let's check. And before we do that, let's take these 3 text boxes and let's make them read only because they're supposed to be. All right, let's go and set our cancel button and our accept button. So our accept button will be btn add. Our cancel button will be btn clear. Let's set our Windows start position to center screen. All right, and let's set our tab order. It will be 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so view tab order, 0. I'm sorry, try that again. Let me close it. View tab order. This will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and another view tab order. So now I should be able to run it. Let's go to our code window and let's see what it looks like. Gives me errors. Okay, I'm missing something. Okay, I didn't put in a semicolon at the end, so there's a syntax error. Oops, I'm on the wrong line. Try it there, semicolon. Why are you doing that? Oh, that should be a comma, not a semicolon. All right, so file, save all, run the program. So if there's nothing in here and I click add, okay, text box empty, score cannot be empty, try again. All right, well, it's also running this one. Okay, we'll fix that in a moment. But if I put something in here that's garbage, all right, out of range or non-numeric, try again. That's working. But this one, if it's empty, I don't want it to run this and this. That's silly. So let's fix that. All right, how do I fix that? If this is indeed empty, show my message. All right, do the focus, but then just return because I'm dead in the water right there. And I can do the same thing here, but I'm at the bottom, so it's going to return anyway. So now with that return statement in there, run it, and I put in nothing, I get my error message, but I stay right there. And I don't get the other error message. So that's all working right now. All right, so that's good. So now we have to update our totals. The nice thing is, again, I can come back to here. This was update our totals. Okay. Oops. Paste that in. And there's no errors. I use the same variable names. All right. So that should be working as well. All right. And so we've got update totals. I think we're done. Let's just take a quick look. File, or let's run it rather. I did it before. I think we put in a 50. Well, I didn't tell it to print these things out, so let's fix that. All right. So after we update our totals, okay, we have to fill in our text boxes. So txt, what was it? Score total dot text equals score total dot toString. Txt score count dot text equals score count toString. Okay, that's 2 of them. And txt average dot text equals score, did I call it score average? I guess I did. Dot to string. And again, we'll put in here N2. All right, now this time I used the old method that we're using with the toString. I could have done this just as easily using string interpolation. All right, so file, save all, to run it. There's a 50, good. We did before, I think it was a 70 and 100. And it appears to be working just fine. All right, so let's take just a minute and go back. And as I mentioned before, we were able to copy a lot of stuff in from the other program, not just our prologue, of course. We used the same program constants. All right, minimum of 0, maximum of 100. Since we have an exit button in here right now, we no longer have to have a stop program type of variable. All right, so we got rid of that, but we used the same class variables that we had before. Current score, score total, score count, and score average. All right. In our add routine, we called attempt to add test score, which was pretty much the same way we did it before. So we came in and we set score string. We're not reading it in, we're grabbing it right from our text box. You didn't have to do this, but if I didn't do this, then everywhere you see score string, it would have had to have been text score dot text. I thought this was a little cleaner, so I did it like that. Then we have our result. Just like before, we check for an empty test score. If it was empty, we give it this message with that title. We set the focus back to our text box, the first one, and we return. All right, if we get down to here, as it says, there was input. We don't need this. It was not 999. So there was input, so we're checking for non-numeric or out-of-range test scores. So again, we come in just like we did before, and we attempt to parse it. If either the parse failed, or the current test score was a number, but it was less than 0, or there was a number and it was greater than 100. So if it's any of these three conditions, we again give that message with that title. But since there was stuff in there now, we remove that stuff that was in there and we set the focus. All right. If the if here is true, we do all this and we return. If the if in here is true, we do all this and then we return. But since it's the last line, we could have put a return here, but there is an implied return in between these two lines anyway. We could have, but we don't have to. Finally, all right, if we were able to put in the score, or once we called update totals, which was exactly like we did it before. This code again was copied in verbatim from what we had previously. And the only other thing we had to do after that was put values in associated text boxes. Okay, so that was the whole program. So that's the first one, done both as a console app, non.NET Framework console app, but a console app, and as a GUI app. So that's those. All right, so let's go on then. So let me close all this. Let me do a file, save all. Then I'm going to close everything I've got open here. And before we go into the next one, which we're going to do right now, all right, but before we go in and do this, let's take a look at the associated comment. So this was the one we just did here for 4.2. So we're going to be working with what are called factorials. All right, they're a thing that can be used in programming languages. All right, and they have some scientific meanings also. So this is the kind of thing that we want to do in here. All right, we want to be able to enter a number between 1 and 20. So if we put in 20, it would give us 20 factorial, which is 20 followed by an exclamation point. And that would be equal to 20 times 19 times 18 times 17, all the way down to 1. And that's a pretty frigging big number. It's too big for a regular integer. So this is the first time what you're going to see in here is we make it type long, which is a big, big, big integer value. All right. And the other thing that we're going to do in here as well is rather than, this is actually a pretty short program. We're going to write a routine and have it call itself. And that's that recursion that I mentioned to you earlier. So let me grab all of this, copy it to the clipboard, and let's start anew again. All right. So right mouse click, add new project. Again, it will be a console app. And this one will be practice 02 underscore 02C for console. All right, and create. And just like before, I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to come back here. Copy that in. Change the name. So again, this has to be practice 02 underscore 02 console C. All right. Then the next thing I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to copy in the comments. There they are. All right. And now let's write the program. Again, like I said, it's not really a long program. I think it's shorter than the last one that we did. Now, again, they say in here in the requirements, oh, assume that, the person knows what they're doing. That's always a terrible assumption to make. So I'm going to come in here and right here, I'm going to again declare and in. All right. Now, you wouldn't want to put, for example, when you are running this program, and this is what it looks like. Notice how big that number is if you put in 20. You wouldn't want to put 100 in there. That probably would be even too big for a long. So we're making sure that the number that gets put in is between 1, the number in here is between 1 and 20. All right, that's what I took those requirements to make, or to be rather. So those are my constants. I have a const int min number that I set equal to 0, and a const int max number that I set equal to 20. Again, those are not arbitrary values. I did it based on, in fact, that should be a 1. Doesn't make much sense to put a 0 in there. All right. Then I also came in and did a declare and initialize, and I had 2 class variables. Remember, a class variable is a variable that's defined outside of any method or function. So since they're going to be dealing with main static, int number equals 0, static, this will be a long factorial. That's going to be that big number that we calculate. That's going to be equal to 0. Since it's a long, I have to put an upper or lowercase l in there with it. That's what that L means. I could put a lowercase l. I find that confusing. It looks a lot like a 1. All right. So I'll put it in there like this. Okay. Let's see. So like I said, not a real big program. Now I could have put a stop value in here like I did before, but another way of doing this is I'm going to have to, when I run the program, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to click the button over here in the upper right hand corner to close it. And that's okay too. So I said here, while 1 equal 1. Well, 1 should always equal 1, right? So I'm telling it to go into an infinite loop. And I'm going to write 4 routines. Input number factorial equal calculate factorial. And I'm going to pass number into it. I'll get why that is in just a bit. And then print answer and a read line. Oops. Print answer and then a read line. So that's my whole program right there. Now I'm again going to take this one and comment it out and this one and comment it out until I write them. All right. So let's write input number. Okay. And it's going to look very similar to what we did in the last program. What do I mean? Well, watch if you would. Void input number. All right. So what do I want to do here? Well, I'm going to have that bool result. Why? Because I want to check and see if what we put in there is numeric and if what we put in there is between 1 and 20. So that's what that's going to handle. I'm again going to clear because this is a console app. So I always am going to start with a new screen, so to speak. All right. Now I'm going to put a write in here that says, and let's use some string interpolation. Enter a number between, again, min number and max number. And that will say, enter a number between 1 and 20. A couple tabs in there, so it'll look nice. And then string, string, call whatever you want. This is going to be a number, so I called it number str equal read line. And then very, very similar to what we did before. Let me make sure that whoever's trying to get in can get in. All right, I think they're in. So, all right, so string number string equals read line. Now, when you look here, well, what the heck is wrong? Well, let's see. All right, it doesn't like a few things that are in here. So it's telling me I didn't close my double quote here. Here we go. All right. So number string equals a read line. Okay, and again, just like before, check for no input. So if number string equal nothing, and again, there are other ways of doing that as well. All right, but if it's equal to nothing, I'll do a write line. Okay, I could do string interpolation, but I'm not printing out any variables in here. So I can just say you must input a number. Please try again. Just like that. All right. And I'll call input number all over again. Now, again, I can check this now. I'm in my input number. I'm going to put a read line down on the bottom of this just so it doesn't fly off the screen. So I'll get rid of that in a bit. So file, save all. Let's run this. My file or my project is the startup project. So enter a number between 1 and 20. The only thing we're checking for now, the only code we put in is for no input. And you'll notice with that read line, it's just flipping right off the screen, but it is clearing again. That's good. All right, so we've handled that. Okay, so we checked and handled no input. So if we get down here, there was input. Verify that 1, input was numeric, and 2, input was within range. In other words, it was between 1 and 20. All right, so we're going to do that now. We're going to do it again very, very, very similarly to what we did in the last project that we did. So result equals int dot try parse. And notice the IntelliSense even kicked in for us. All right, so that's good. And now we can verify. So if not result or, oops, or, come on, or the number was less than the minimum, or the number was greater than the maximum. Again, the IntelliSense came in there for us. All right, and you can put it all on one line. It really and truly doesn't matter. So what do we want to do in this case? Well, similar to what we did here, and I'll just grab this. I'm just going to change the message. All right, so I'm going to change this from non-numeric or out of range input. Please try again. All right. So we've got all that stuff set. So again, let's try that. So let's save it. You've already seen when we had no input. All right. How about non-numeric? How about out of range? All right. So everything right now appears to be working. Okay. So we've got that. Now we have to figure out the factorial. Note the difference between lines 62 and 63. We'll get rid of that error in just a moment. All right. But this is not returning anything. So its type is void. This is returning factorial. So I must set its type up as a long. All right. So let's write that one now. Calculate factorial. We're passing the number in. Technically, you don't have to pass that number in there, but we do later. And that's why I'm putting it in like that. So static long, calculate factorial. This is not a long, no pun intended. This is not a big routine. All right, literally, it's about 7 or 8 lines or something like that. And I'm going to go over all of it. So give me a second to. Remember, we don't have to call this. When we call it down here, where are you? Where are you? There you go. This is called an actual parameter. This name must match the name here. But down here, this is not an actual parameter. This is called a formal parameter. So we can call it whatever we want. So I'm just going to call it n. Why? Because there's less typing if I call it n. So I'm going to say if n equal 0 or n equal 1, I'm done. So I can just return 1. All right. Else, and this is where it gets a little hinky, but we're going to go over it in just a minute. Return n times calculate factorial. And now we want to pass it as n minus 1. So again, we talked about this before. If this doesn't make sense, I'm going to assume it doesn't. Let's assume we typed in a 6. So we want the number for 6 factorial. And that is equal to 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. All right. And we'll run this one with that in there in just a minute. So 6 times 5, I'll put this in as a comment. 6 times 5 is 30, times 4 is 120, times 3 is 360, times 2 is 720. So that should be the answer. What this is doing, so the first time through, if it's 6, it's not a 0 or a 1, so it does this. So it returns 6 times what? It calls it again with 5 in there. So it runs it and it's 6 times 5. In other words, what this is doing that right here is it is creating this. And when it gets down to 1, it just returns 1. It's finished. Notice there's not a return when it's calling itself. This is called a recursive function. It is a function that calls itself to be able to get something done. When you write in a recursive function, you must find a way to take whatever you're testing and change it. That's what we're doing here. We're changing the value passed to calculate factorial. We are decrementing it by 1 each time. All right. So the only other thing that's left is that print answer. I didn't really need to make this into a routine, but I did. It's very short. It's literally 1 line. All right. And I use string interpolation in here again. Didn't have to, but right line. The number. Followed by an exclamation point equals the factorial. And I set that up with N0. And I want to show you in just a second why I did that. All right. That is the whole program. So you come in, you input a number. This is virtually the same kind of thing we did in the last program. Then we come in and we've got a recursive function that calls itself to do something to the equivalent of that. And then we print the answer. So if I save this and run it, you've already seen me running it with bad data, but let's put in 6. It might fly off the screen again because I don't think I put a read line in there. No, it didn't. All right. So 6 factorial. Now we can do it again. All right. Notice if I put in 27, it doesn't take it because that was more than 20. 20 was our max. And you can see how big that is. That is 20 times 19 times 18 all the way till 1. All right. Now, a couple things that are in here. First of all, if I remove this N0, it'll still work, but it won't be formatted. That's kind of all right. Now, in just the same way with most people, so I'm going to put that back in there, colon N2. With most people, for instance, my phone number at Rankin is this. But if most people saw this, they may or may not know that it's a phone number. All right. In the same way, social security number, right? That's a little harder. So we were told when you looked in here and you looked at what this was supposed to look like, it had commas. So by formatting it as a number, in fact, I don't want a 2 in there. I want it to be N0. I don't want there to be any decimals. Okay. So that puts the comma in and it's saying, hey, no matter what, I don't want any decimals to show. They're all whole numbers. So again, we did 6. If we do 7, that's 720 times 7, which is, I don't know, 4,900. About 50. And there you go. And it's formatted. So there was that one. So before we take our next break, I'm going to attempt to write this again. And I'm going to attempt to write it as a GUI app. And again, I'm going to keep this open because I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to grab most of this, etc. Now, we won't need a print answer because we'll already have it on the form. And you can see, hopefully, how simple the form is. All right. It has 2 labels. It has 2 text boxes, one of which is read-only. I'll put I will put a clear button in there, so we'll have 3 buttons, and that's it. So let's build that and see if we can get that done before we take our next break. So File, Save All here, and I'm going to start up a new project. So I'm going to, again, add new project. This, again, will be a Windows Forms app without the .NET framework. All right, so this will be, again, we called it Practice 02_02G, again, G for GUI. Again, we want .NET support, so I'll click Create. It'll take a second. I'll leave it at that size. Let's first come in and rename the form. So it'll be FRM factorial converter. Yes, I want to change it. Let's come in here and change the text to factorial converter. Hit enter. There's that. Let's quickly put in our interface here. So I'm going to add, I'll just add my buttons first. Doesn't matter which one you put in first. All right, let's put in our 2 labels. Let's change the color of the background color of the form too. Okay. Ready. That. And let's put in our 2 text boxes. This one I'm going to make bigger because, again, it'll hold a bigger number. All right, that's pretty much it. So let's highlight everything. I'm going to change my size of all my controls. All right, it's not looking too bad. Let's center these. Let's center these. All right, let's take our interface and lock it. Okay, and start filling this up. So this is number. So I'll just call it LBL number. And it'll have the text of number. And this will be TXT number. All right, and this will be factorial. And it'll have the text factorial. And this will be TXT factorial. Yep. All right, then our 3 buttons, as we always do. So this will be BTN calculate. With the text calculate. Put an ampersand there so that the C is as the underscore, so we can use that as an hotkey if we want. This will be clear. And it'll be BTN clear. And finally, this will be our exit. All right. So we pretty much have everything done. Let's click on the form and do our things we always do, our kind of maintenance things. And I'll set our accept button to BTN calculate, set our cancel button, to BTN clear, our start position to center screen, and then let's set our tab order. This field right here will be read only. All right, so our tab order will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, view tab order, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another view tab order. We could run it now, but it's not going to do anything because we don't have any code in here yet. So here's our calculate. Notice again, it did not put in. As I said, sometimes it puts it in, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. So I'm going to come back up here and find it wherever the heck I had it. And paste it in. The first one was calculate. Okay. The next one will be clear. So again, I'll paste that in, make that BTN clear. And finally, our last one will be our exit. So we can, whoops, try that again. That one we can just put in there like this. All right, I'm going to write this as I always do. I said this before, I'm going to say it to you again. And one of the reasons I am not calling things directly from button click event, first of all, it's considered bad practice. And second of all, it's allowing us to write methods. And I think it's chapter 7 that we'll be getting to soon enough is all on writing methods. So by that time, you'll have already been doing it. So it's not going to be like a big learning curve for anybody. We're modularizing the program, and that's the way you should be writing code. All right. All right. Then we've got our clear. And what do we have here? We've got txt factorial or number dot text is equal to nothing. Txt factorial dot text is equal to nothing. And txt number dot focus. Now, I've said this before, so yeah, you've heard it before, but we could have taken this field right here and we could have made that a label. All right, it would have been totally fine because it can't get the focus really, and you can't do anything with it. It's read only right now. So we could have done it either way. All right, so this is calculate, and for the calculate routine that is in here, again, I tried to keep as much as I possibly could from before. Let's bring in that comment. Again, we always want at least a minimum of program documentation in here. Okay, so you've got that. All right. And now we'll put in, just run our routine here. So, all right. So what did I do right here? The way I did it again, all right, is I first called input number, which doesn't exist. So let's write that. Private void input number. All right. Don't need anything in there. So that's fixed. Then I, just like before, I said factorial. I didn't copy that in yet, so it's going to give me an error. And that's fine. We'll fix it in a second. Factorial equal calculate factorial and pass in number. Let's get rid of this. And finally, this will be txt factorial dot text equal, And this is what we did before. We called a routine called print answer, but now we'll just be able to come in and do it like this. So I'm going to use string interpolation, number, exclamation point equal, factorial. And just like before, we'll do this n0. No decimal places. Let's end this and end this. All right, now it's giving me these errors because I haven't defined number and I haven't defined factorial. So let's grab that from in here. So there that is. We've now got our constants and we now have our variables. So the only error we're getting is calculate factorial. We're getting write it down wrong. Calculate factorial. And int n for number. Now, I'm still going to get an error because I'm not returning anything. So for now, I'll just say return 0. Now I don't have any errors in my program. txt number.text. All right. So let's go in here. And that's actually wrong. So we'll fix that. This should just be number. There we go. So right now there's no errors in here. So the first thing we want to do is input our number. Okay. So just like before, we'll have bool result, and I'll have string number str is equal to txt number.text. All right. Now I'm going to go back to the other program because we've already gone over that logic. All right. And I'm going to have to make some changes, but that's okay. So let me bring that in here. Again, we don't want write lines. I'm replacing the write lines with my private void show error message with, again, string for the message, string for the title, and then our message box dot show, our message, our title, our message box. I'll just grab this. I don't want that one, but that's fine. We'll fix it in a second. Depending on your point of view, IntelliSense like this, it brings this stuff as either great or it really stinks. All right. I kind of like it when, especially when it helps me like that. All right. So we've got that. Now we're getting these errors over here because of all those write line statements. So again, this will now become show error message. All right. And I'm getting that error because I have to give the title for this. So it'll say invalid or out of range input. Again, you can put whatever you want to put in there. All right. We're not calling the routine again, but if that's the case, we put nothing, we put something in there that was invalid. So we'll say txt number.text equals nothing, txt number.focus. And again, I wrote it backwards. Should have done this one first, and I didn't. So we don't need to input anything. That's for console, but we do need to check for no input. All right, so we'll change this to txt number.focus. We'll go over everything when we're all done. So show error message. As it says there, again, you must provide a number. And I'll change this to the error that's here to whatever you want. No input provided. All right. So all of our errors are gone, but we haven't figured out the factorial yet. All right. And the good news is we can do it exactly like we did it before. So I can copy all that in. and replace that with this. I think we're done. So let's take a look and then we'll go back and quickly go through it and then take another break. All right, so of course, again, I didn't set my startup project. So right mouse click, set a startup project. There we go. Now, again, if I leave it blank, no input provided, you up. All right, so right here, where we are checking that, I should say return. All right, again, I don't need one here. I could, but it's redundant to put that in because it's at the end. So if I leave it blank, no input provided, you must provide a number, try again, and there's that. Now this, it is still running that, so I got to fix that. All right, we'll look at that in a minute. If I do come in here and put something garbage in there, still leaving that in there. Okay, if I put something out of range, I'm getting that invalid. All right, I don't know what that did, but it was because I was messing around here. So 22 should also be out of range. So we want to fix this. How do we fix that? Well, we want to make sure that when there's an error, not only is txt number empty, but we should be able to say txt factorial dot text has got nothing in it as well. I think that'll fix it. We'll find out in a moment. All right, so nothing in there. Oh, that didn't do it, so we'll have to look at that. We will in just a second. All right, it is still doing the calculation. I know what the problem is. All right, the problem is this. We're telling it in here to call these regardless. That's why it's doing it. All right, so if I come in here and do this, all right, and there's different ways I could solve this too. All right, but like I said, there's different ways that I could solve this. So right now, I can come in here and say, let's see, so this should have a number in it once we call that. All right. Oh, how do we want it? I mean, there's different ways of doing it. I'm trying to figure out the easiest, most straightforward way of doing it. All right. So if it's empty, we do that. We return. So it's returning nothing, but then it's coming down and it's calling this. All right. So I'm going to just put if number, all right, dot toString is not equal to the empty string. Then I want to do this because otherwise there's no sense in doing it. There's no number to convert. Let's see if that fixed it. So we leave it blank. Oh, still didn't do it. All right, we'll have to look at it in a minute. But let's see now if we put in 20. Okay, it's got it in there, but it looks like it doesn't like my calculation. So let's look at the calculation. Thought I copied it over, so it should have been okay. Private long calculate. I never returned anything. See that? There's no return statement. It should have given me an error, and it didn't. Return factorial. Is it factorial? It's, let's see, and return n. Guess I'm returning n. That's the number I passed in. So this returns 1, this returns n. It looks like it's right to me. All right, but it is printing out that garbage, so If number to string is not equal to that, it should be calling that, and it should be printing this out. Number, there it is. It's txt factorial dot text. That's my problem. Well, one of my many, but there we go. And we don't even want that. We want the word factorial in here. All right, with n0. Let's see if that fixed it. Empty. All right, well, it's still doing it, but it's correct. 20. Okay. 13. 5. They're all correct. The only thing I want to fix is if I leave this blank, I don't want it to say that. What if I come in here and do this? It's still saying that. So it's still coming out and doing 0. So if number string dot to string, well, another way I could probably try to fix this is I could say if number is greater than 0, then do this. Let's see if it takes that. So with nothing in here, okay, that looks good. With junk in here, that looks good. All right, so 11, good. Clear works, exit works. Give me about just a minute or two just to quickly go over this program, then we'll take a break. All right. We've got a simple interface here. We've got a simple interface, which it doesn't want to let me get to right now. So let's try going to it from here. Come on. That's interesting. Kind of stuck right now. But the point is this. We'll come back. Well, that's neat too. What do we have in here? All right. We've got much of the code that we had previously. There. Okay. So we are asking the user to enter a number. If she or he does not put a value in there, we're giving them an error message, setting the focus there and continuing. If they put in either something non-numeric, or if they put in something out of range, we're giving them an error message. All right, it's still doing that, which is bad. All right, and we're going on or not going on. All right, so I'll have 0 in here. That worked. But if we put in a number that's out of range, okay, I don't know why it's working and not working. It looks like it's okay to me. Now, notice we got an exception. Stack Overflow exception. Why did we get that? The answer is we got that because the number that we put in, 3333, it was trying to do 3333 times 3332 times etc. So we should be able to come in here and make a check right here that says if n is greater than 20, in fact, we've got a thing that's called max number, I think it was. So if it's greater than max number, we could give an error, or we can just return. All right, now that's a long, so I'm going to return here 0L. So now if I come in here and put in, okay, still got to fix that, which we will, but it is clearing it and it is handling it. All right. Now I don't want to keep you any longer. So let's take 10 minutes. Let's come back 11 minutes, come back at 10:35. We'll fix this one and then we'll go on to the last program or two. All right. Um, um, All right, it is 10:35, so I'm going to continue on. Um, the reason that this wasn't working correctly before is I was checking to see if number was greater than 0. So if I put in 33, of course number is greater than 0. What I wanted to make sure was that the number was greater than 0, but the factorial was not 0. All right, in fact, I probably don't even need this one, but I don't care. It's working now. So if I come in here and put in 33, I get my error message, it clears, and there's nothing there. If I put in non-numeric, error message, it clears, and there's nothing there. If I put in a negative number, error message, it clears, and there's nothing there. So if I put in 20, which is valid, all right, no, it doesn't like something. So let's see. Let's run it again. Oh, I know what it is. All right, so if factorial, yeah, it is greater, and factorial is not equal. It should be true. Okay, maybe you figured out, but now the problem is this, calculate. And it's hanging, it's not doing anything. And the reason it's not doing anything is my check is still wrong, because factorial right here was set up originally as that. It was set up as 0L, so it is still the 0L right there. All right. And the funny thing is, I was going back and I looked, as I've already written this, and I looked at it beforehand, and either I didn't test it very well, which knowing me, that's quite possible, or I put in something else, because I'm rewriting it right now, and I don't see where I did. Okay, so let's see. If the number is greater than 0, that'll be true. All right. And the factorial is not equal to 0L. Well, one thing we could do is I could come back and make this, for example, negative 1L. I think that'll work. And then make this negative 1L. Like that. Let's see if that works. Oh, I think I'm going to have the same problem. Now I am, at least. Yeah. All right. So make that a 0. All right. So that worked. All right. That's working. Now let's check garbage. That seems to be working. Out of range. Okay, now I've got the same problem. I'll look at it in a little bit. It's probably something simple. Normally, the simplest things are what trips me up. So that's not a big thing. Really and truly is not, one way or the other. All right. Okay, now what have we done here so far? We have done all right, we did this. So we have done, in other words, we have come in here and we have done the score program and we did the factorial program. And I owe you fixing this, which I'll do. All right. And I'll put it before I put it out there on the system, I'll fix it. All right. I just don't want to get too hung up on this one. All right. There's 2 more I'd like to do today. Now, we're not going to get them both done. That's fine. So we'll do one right now. We'll see where we are, and then we'll pick it up here tomorrow. One of the things I did send you this morning, just so you know, was this. This is your second homework, and it really shouldn't say lab assignments. It should say homework. And it'll be due next Sunday. Now, when you got the homework for chapters 1 to 3 last week, there were like 4 problems, and I did all of them in class I didn't save it as a repo, but I did all of them in class. Now we got more. There's 10 problems in here. I'm going to do 5 of the 10 and get as much done tomorrow as I possibly can. All right. And I'll figure out which ones of those, but again, I will not save that as a GitHub repo. It will not. So if you want to follow along, or you're going to have to go back and watch. All right. Then Wednesday, if we're behind, we'll catch back up on that, and I'll give you the pretest. What I'm looking at right now is I'm not going to give you the test on Thursday. I think I'm going to give you the test on Friday. On Thursday, I'm going to give you a day. I'll be online the entire period, but I'm going to give you a day where you can just sit there and practice this stuff or catch up, etc. All right, because I think it's pretty important that you have some time in the course where you're able to just go in and have lab time for yourselves. All right. Okay. So with that said, let's jump back into here. And the next one that we are supposed to be doing here on our list. So we've done this one. No problems there. Did this one. A little bit of a problem, and we'll fix it. All right. And the next was this one. All right. This is that change do calculator. And they even gave you a hint in the requirements here that they said it's a combination of using divide and modulo. All right. So let's go in and we'll create this. Again, as always, I'll do the console version first. So let me just go grab this right away. That's here. So, all right. So again, I'm going to come up here, right mouse click, add, new project, console app, practice, 02_03C for console. All right. Click create, get rid of that, come back into here. Grab that, paste that in, change this from console to practice 02_03C for console. And now we can get started. All right. Again, I'm going to copy in. Oh, not that. I want to copy in my comment. There it is. And let's take a second and look at it, okay? I don't know what that is, but okay. So you'll develop a form. We're going to do it first console that tells how many quarters times nickels and pennies you need to make change for any amount of change between 0. I'm just going to use 1 because 0 is stupid, and 99 cents. One way to get this done is to use the division and modulus operators and to cast the results of each division to an integer. All right, the way I wrote it, you don't even have to cast. This stuff is GUI only, so we don't have to talk about that in here. So let's start writing. All right. Now, I did put in one class variable, and I put in some constants. You didn't have to do it like this, but this is how I did it. All right, so I use the min number equal to 1 and a max number equal to 99. All right. I also had these. Now this, you could come up with your own determination over whether or not you needed these, because I have quarter value that I set equal to 25, dime value that I set equal to 10, and nickel value that I set equal to 5. All right. Now, with that said, I didn't even have a penny value. You'll see why in just a bit. nickel value. All right. And I have one. Let's put a comment up here. So there's our constants, and I have one class variable. And that's going to be the number that I read in. All right, now, doesn't like something. Oh, well, that's interesting. I guess when I copied this, I got stuff in here twice. So let's get rid of that. I better not, because I need some of it back. I need this. Something, so, oh, there we go. This, I should do a better job of watching what I'm doing. All right, that should be done outside of here. There we go. Now it's fine. Let's get rid of all that garbage here. All right, so what do we have here? We've got 5 constants. The minimum number we're going to allow, which is 1 or a penny. The maximum number we're going to allow, which is 99 cents. The value of a quarter is 25. The value of a dime is 10. The value of a nickel is 5. And again, I thought it made the program a little bit more readable to do it like this. It's not that at all that it was mandatory to do this. All right, but that's just the way that I did do it. So in here, I tried to keep it simple. So I did another infinite loop, while 1 equal 1. If you didn't want to do that, just like we did in an earlier program, we could have put a stop value in there if we wanted to do that, but I just wanted to be able to run the program again and again. And we'll have input number, which will be our number between 1 and 99, and then calculate, I called it calculate change numbers. All right. And let's immediately create both of these so we get those errors gone. So static void input number. So that one's gone. And static void calculate change numbers. All right, so I now have no errors in here. So let's just start writing. Okay, you've seen this really for virtually every program now that we've done today, in that I'm going to start with a clear. I'm going to have my bool result, which again is going to check to see if either, all right, I put an invalid value in there or an out of range value in there. All right, so just like before, enter a number between min number and max number. So that's going to enter a number, that'll say enter a number between 1 and 20 or 99. And I'll just call the same routine again. So, and again, right now I can check this. So let me go and set my startup project. And if I run this and I leave it blank, I'll put a tab in there in a second. Okay. It is clearing. It is doing what I want it to do. So that's good. let's, like I said, let's put a tab in there so it looks a little neater. All right. Okay. So we can come in here and check for no input. So if we get down here, we had input. All right. So make sure the input's valid. All right. So just like we've done previously, I'm going to say result equal, and there's nothing magical about the word result. To me, I use that because that's what I'm doing. I'm grabbing the result of something. So number string and out number, that looks good. And then if not result or number less than min number or number greater than max number. Okay. So that means I've done something out of range. Okay, we talked about this before. So if that's the case, I'll again grab this, just change my message that's in here. All right. And I'll say just invalid input. Try again. Okay, now I should be able to check for that. Like here. Oh. So with nothing, boom, doesn't take it. Same kind. Okay, so that's working so far. All right. So that is, like I said, we had input, make sure it's valid, so we're doing that. Okay, not a problem. So we've got that. So now we need to calculate our change numbers, which is really not that hard. All right. Well, I'm going to do this. Int, these are local variables because they're defined inside of a function. Num quarters equals 0. Num dimes equals 0. Num nickels equals 0. And num pennies. And again, because I'm squirrely, there we go. Now, the calculations aren't hard. Num quarters quarters. So num quarters is equal to what? The number we put in divided by quarter value. So divided by 25. All right, so if we put in 99, okay, that should give us 3 for the number of quarters that we have. All right, but we still have, if it's 99, we still have 24 cents left. So now I made another variable that I just called what's left. You didn't have to do this, but set that equal to 0 as well. So what's left equals number modulo quarter value, just like it shows here. So that's our quarters. And then we're just going to basically do the same kind of thing. So the number of dimes, now we're not working with number anymore. We're working with what's left. And that's going to be divided by dime value. And what's left equals what's left modulo dime value. All right, then we can do it again and say the number of nickels is what's left divided by nickel value. And we don't even need to do any, to do another calculation technically. Well, let me show you what I mean. So nickel value All right, and not what's left. No, this is num pennies because you're down to the end. And that equals what's left divided by nickel value. Now, if that's hard to fathom, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but let's just come off over here and let's put in a comment. Let's say that we put in, because I want to use each one of these. All right. So let's put in 1/4, which is 25 cents, 1 dime, so it's 35 cents, 1 nickel, so it's 40 cents, and 1 penny, so it's 41 cents. So 41 cents. So I say 41 divided by 25. That's going to give me 1. This is going to give me 16, which is our remainder. So 16 divided by 10 is going to give me 1. And 6 is going to be our remainder. 6 divided by 5 is going to give me 1, and the remainder is 1. So that should work. That actually should work. And all we need to do now is our right lines. We did that, but I did. Right, we'll put in a read line at the bottom. No, we're not done. So this will be number of quarters. This will be number of dimes. All right, this will be nickels. And this will be pennies. All right, let's run it first and see if I made any mistakes. Okay. All right, let's try, like we said, 41. Okay, well, I got too many blank lines, but that's okay. 1/4, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 1 penny. Looks good to me. All right. So let's fix that up. Get rid of these ends at the beginning. Don't need any of them. All right, so 3/4 is 75. A dime would be 85. A nickel would be 90. And a penny would be 91. Looks like it's been working. If we put in a small value, for instance, if we were to come in here and run it and just put in 3 cents, it should give us 0.0003. And it does. I believe right now it's working. All right, I need one more \T there. So let's look at it one more time. All right, so we're telling it to input a number. We're coming in here and saying, enter a number between 1 and 99, and then we're reading it in. If there's no input, we're just writing up an error message. You must enter a number, try again, and we send them right back to where they were and tell them to do it all over again. All right. And let's see. That's one thing is if I put a read line right here, in fact, I have to put it before that call. All right, that may make it a little easier to see the error messages and work with it. We can do the same thing here. All right, so that's checking for no input. This is checking for invalid input. So if this is false, we put something non-numeric in there. It wasn't able to parse it to an integer. If this is true, we put in a negative number. And if this is true, we put in a number that was 100 or greater. All right. So if we get down to here, then everything was cool as far as I can tell. All right. So what are we doing? We're first figuring out the number of quarters. Then we're figuring out the number of dimes. Then we're figuring out the number of nickels. And we end with a number of pennies. And then we're just displaying or printing out all of our values. All right. So now, normally, if I'd be testing this, of course, you'd have a lot more numbers that you'd be testing. 78 should be 3 quarters and 3 pennies. And it is. All right. 56 should be 2 quarters, a nickel, and a penny. All right. So you can see it does at least appear as if it's working right now. All right. So that's it for this one. So let me do a file, save all. I'm going to leave this open because as I have been doing, all right, I'm going to use a bunch of this stuff when I write the equivalent of this in a GUI. There it is. Make it a little bit bigger. Doesn't probably have to be, but that's fine. And let's, as I do, change the background color of the form. All right. And we're going to have, according to our picture here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 labels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 text boxes, 4 of which are going to be read-only, and I'll add a cancel or a clear button here. So 3 buttons. This again will be called change calculator. So let's first start by right mouse clicking on the form and renaming it to FRM change calculator. Yes, I want to change all occurrences. And I guess it resets that for me, but that's okay. All right. Make it green again. That's fine. All right. I'm going to put in my 3 buttons right away. Again, this will be calculate. Clear and exit. All right. And as I said, we will have, doesn't matter the order in which we do these, but so let's just grab a text box over here. It's about right there. I don't know. Too bad. And let's do our labels. Let's reset the size of all of our controls, the text in them. 20 bold and Arial. There's that. Okay. And because I like to do this, I'm going to move this down a little. And I'm going to move these two down too. I'm just eyeballing that, but that looks pretty good as far as I can tell. Okay. All right. Let's center these. For the text in here, I should say, center that. Let's center the text in here. All right, let's lock our controls into place and let's start making this. So this is number. And what did it say here? So change due 0 to 99. All right. I don't want to have to change all these, so I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to call this change due. Okay, this will be quarters. So that was LBL change due. This will be LBL quarters. So this can be TXT change due and TXT quarters. All right, this will be dimes. So LBL dimes. TXT dimes. Nickels, or LBL nickels. TXT nickels. And pennies. All right, let's make sure I didn't forget anything. So I'm going to come over to here. And it looks okay as far as I can tell. All right, let's come and change and we'll set our accept button as we normally do to BTN calculate, our clear button to BTN clear, or sorry, cancel button to BTN clear. Let's set the start position to center screen and let's do our tab order. Again, these are all going to be read only. So the focus will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, another view tab order. I haven't saved for a while, so file save all would be a good idea here. And then let's start putting in, all right, our stuff. So calculate. Now it did show us that. So clear, and there's clear. And exit. There's exit. Grab that code. All right, for clear. What did I call that first one? I think it's change due. Yep. So again, as we always do, I'm just coming in here and I am clearing out each one of these text boxes. All right. And then setting the focus to the first text box. So like I said, nothing really new in here as far as what we have been doing, etc. All right. And since I've got those two done now, I should be able to test both those. After I set the project. So if I come down to here and click calculate or clear rather, these aren't clearing, but I should have, that should clear and my focus should be back there. And it is. Exit, no, exit, yes. All right, all of it's working. All right, so let's start by opening this up and copying over a few things here. So I'm going to copy over that. All right, I'm going to go down and copy over my constants and my class variable. All right, so all of that stuff is now done. Okay. And under the calculate button, which is all that's left, I'll call again input number. Followed by calculate change amounts. All right, let's put those right down here, just like we did before. That fixed that one. And that fixed that one. All right. Again, I'm going to come back to over here and grab this. I don't need the clear, but and again, I have to change all those right and right lines, but that's not a big thing. I'm going to get errors, but I'm going to come down to the bottom right away. And I'm going to have my private void show message or show error message. With an OK button and an error. So that's done. All right. So like I said, now it's just a matter of going in here and changing all these. Let's move this way over and let's move this way over. There we go. So this will become messagebox.show. Sorry, show error message. And again, that will be our message. Hold on a second. we don't have to input anything. We have to just check for no input. There we go. We don't have to check for no input like that. So let's see. If there is no input, we didn't do number string, so let's do that. String number str equals txt number equals txt change do. All right, so if there's nothing in there, just get rid of, I'll do this. So show error message. You must enter a number, try again. Then put something in here like no input. And then I want to say txt change do dot text dot focus. All right, so that's no input. We had input, make sure it's valid. Okay, notice we're not getting any errors there. Again, this will have to be another show error message. Which is to basically parrot what's up there, and I'll just say invalid input. Since it was invalid, I'll want to both txt change do dot text equals nothing and txt change do dot focus. We don't need these two lines. Okay. Now I still have to calculate my change amount, but let's see what it looks like right now. Okay, if there's nothing in here, you must enter a number, try again. Again, I forgot my return, but we'll fix that in a minute. Okay, so right here, we need a return. Try one more time. There's nothing in there. Get that error message. Boom. If we put something like that, invalid input, or if we put in, that's also invalid input, and that's also invalid input. All right, so as of right now, as far as I can tell, everything is working right now. That's a good start. All right. So for our calculate, again, I'm going to grab what we had in here before. All this. I don't think I'm going to have to change anything, except my right lines are going to have to be changed. They're not right lines anymore. All right, we'll fix that in a minute, but all that looks clean. So this will be, I've already got the number that was input, so I don't need that. This will be txt quarters dot text equal. Now we don't need to say number of quarters anymore, so we get rid of that. Okay, this will be txt dimes. Again, we don't need that. Number of dimes, but that has to be dot text. Txt nickels dot text. Nickels. And I keep forgetting to put an equal sign in there. And finally, txt pennies dot text. All right, let's try it and see if it works. Two, 50, 55, 56, that looks good. All right, 3/4 is 75, 85, 90, 93. All right. 75, 85, 86, 87. far as I can tell, giving it a quick once over, that looks like it works as well. All right. So that is those. Let's just start on the next one, which is the last one, which is this one. Now, this one, I think we'll have time today. Yeah, I'm keeping you most of the period, but I think we'll have time to do this one in console. I'll do the one tomorrow. We'll start doing the GUI one, because then you'll hopefully see why I'm making this a non .NET Framework app. Okay, so this is a simple interface, as you can see. Okay, so let me do again a file save all here. Let's close all this stuff. All right, let's do our last, at least start on our last one here. All righty, so. So just so you see this is an income tax calculator. So in other words, if you make nothing or up to $11,000, the tax you owe will be 10% of whatever your money is. So if you made 10 grand, your income tax, 10% of that is, whatever. All right. And it goes all the way up to 578,125 or more. You get this tax plus 37% of what you made over that. Okay. All right. So doing this, I made a class variable. I didn't have any constants. Now, could I have used constants for all of these values? The lowest and the highest? Yes. I didn't. I hard coded them in. All right. And that was a static decimal income equals 0M. Okay. And I tried to keep this as simple as possible because there's a lot of typing to do in this one where you're putting in the numbers. When we get to that point, I think I'm going to copy it from my working edition, because otherwise I know I'd screw it up. So. Input income and calculate tax due. And like I did before, I'll just write those quickly here. So. All right, so I have no errors right now. That's always a good start. Okay, so again, you've seen this pattern, and much of the work that you do in programming is very pattern oriented. not maybe to the extent that what I've been showing in here today, but again, much of it is pattern oriented. So we'll write this one and get it to work. And then I'll say a couple words and then we'll call it a period. Rather than giving you one more break, I'll just let you go a little bit early today. I can put my clear in there too. Um, all right, so we're saying enter an income and then read it, just like we have been doing. Check for no input. Now, one thing I probably haven't been doing, all right, and it is considered, again, a good idea to do. I should go back and change all the other ones. And when I'm checking here, it really should be dot trim to remove any leading or trailing spaces. All right, so I'll try to remember to go back and do that before I put this out there on the system. All right, so that should handle no input. And there was input. Validate input. Okay. So in other words, it's I only put two validations in here. It must be numeric and it must be greater than 0. All right. They put 0 in on here, but to me, putting 0 in is stupid. You made nothing, you owe nothing. So this is I believe, a decimal dot try parse. Income string, we output the out income, that's fine. Like I said, I just kept it simple like that. Okay. So we should again be able to check that all out now. Reset that or not. So let's make sure. Enter an input, nothing in there, doesn't take it. Negative number, doesn't take it. If I put in a positive number, okay, it is taking it. You just can't tell right now with what we've got put in here. So if we get down to here, let's see. If we do get down to here, boom, it works. So we got a call now, calculate tax due. Like I said, I'm not trying to cheese out here, but what I'm going to do is I think I've got the working one here someplace. And I'm just going to copy all this in. I thought just copy the whole darn thing in. Well, let's start by looking at it. All right. So this will be the tax that you've got due. Again, I went from highest to lowest. So if you make $568,125 or more dollars, your tax due will be this 174,3825 plus the income you made minus that high number times 37%. Then we do a similar thing, all right, for 231,250 and 35%, 182,100 and 32%, 95,375 and 24%, 44,725 and 22%, 11,000 and 12%, and then greater than 0 and 10%. And then we'll print it out. Now they even say in here, up on the top, they give you a cup, just two. 8,700 should give you 870, and 35,150 should give you 39.98. So let's try those. So 8,700. All right, and it says your tax due is 870, so that looks like it worked. And then 35,150, and it says 39.98. So again, that looked like it worked. Now, it may have seemed like I went over this one kind of, probably I did. So again, when you look in here, this is how much they made. I put that in there as a class variable. This was main. We kept it simple. Remember, main, ideally, in a C# program, main, and then really in most programs that have a main, or most languages that have a main, should act as a driver. People have said to me in the past, oh, that's fine. What the heck is a driver? And a driver basically is, it's kind of like a supervisor. A really good supervisor, all right, knows who to delegate the right job to. And that's what we're doing here. Main is delegating the job of inputting the income to a routine called input income. Main is delegating the job of calculating the tax due to a routine called calculate tax due. All right. So to input the income, we clear, okay. We've got a result variable in there. We tell them to enter an income. We read it in. Then we verify that there is something input. If there wasn't, we just have them do it again after we give them an error message. All right. And again, I think that if we came in here and put in a read line right here, trying to see if we can see that message or not. Maybe that's not the right place, but I would think it would be. So let's see. So if we put in nothing, you must enter input a number, try again. If we put in something that's non-numeric or out of range, try again. And if we put in out of range or try again. So that all appears to be working. All right. So we attempt to convert it. If we can't convert it again, we give them that message that we just saw. Otherwise, we're down to here. And with every one of these, all I did was I used the chart that we were given. And in that chart that we were given, all right, I just gave the tax that was due with the one that they gave. So that was in this column right here. 0 all the way up to 174,000. Should be a comma. $8.25. All right, and then we have to go and subtract whatever they made, all right, that amount from there and multiply it by 37%. Okay, so basically, like I said, that's how the whole thing was set up. Now, just so you see this, I'm not going to spend much time on this at all, but what I will do before class tomorrow, all right, I'm actually going to do it right at the end of class today, and that is I will go back and there it is. I will make this interface. And again, just like the last one, it's very simplistic. So we'll have our form, 2 labels, 2 text boxes, one of which is a read only, and I'll put another button in between those 2 that says clear. All right, so you'll have that. So when we start tomorrow, I probably could finish it, but then I'm keeping you until right at the edge. And I don't want to do that just in case too we don't finish. So we'll pick it up there tomorrow. Now, the other thing, and I mentioned this to you before, so let me do a save all here. And that is what you got sent today was this. This is your homework that will be due next Sunday. There are 10 problems in here. Out of these 10, I will attempt to do as many tomorrow of 5 of them as I can. I will not do each of them as both a console and as a GUI like I did today. All right. But I will come in there and do these. Now, the only thing I want to say to you, the only other thing is this. People seem to have problems when they took the test. You were supposed to have a folder in there called HOTS, and then each one of these particular projects in there the way that I have done it. All right. But a lot of people didn't do it that way. And I mean, some people had problems with Git period, so we're still going to have to work on that. I am going to put in here quickly a new project. It'll be, again, a Windows Forms app. And it will be my last one, which is practice 02_04G for GUI. All right. Now that came up right away. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't do the right one, but it's not going to matter in the end. So what I want to show you though is this. We already have out there a GitHub repository that's called, I believe it's like C# practice. I don't know, but it's, what here, C# practice here. Okay. And I think the one that we have, because it doesn't like the pound sign in there. So let me see if I've got a C# practice in here. Okay, what do I have in here that's called practice? No, don't know what I called it. All right. So what I'll do is I'll make one that's called C# practice. I'm the owner. All right, that's available. I'm going to keep it public, create the repo, and I'm going to copy all of the second last line here. All right. So I want to change the name of the actual outside folder to C# practice. It's not going to like it doing it like that. So let me do it like this. There it is. So I'm going to change it to C# practice. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't like it because it's still running. So save. Now let's try it. There we go. All right, I'll double click on it. There is no Git folder in here, as you can see right now. So I will right mouse click, bring up my Git bash, do my Git init. When I hit enter, you'll see a Git folder, a .git folder made. There it is. Do my Git add dot. That'll add everything to that folder. I'll do my Git commit -m. Put this up so you can see what I'm typing in. And it'll say C# Murach extra exercises. Okay, hit enter. That's got everything in there. Then it's going to load. I've got to take that line that I copied to set my origin. And remember, what that does is that sets up a relationship between Git and GitHub. It says that my origin is going to be sent out to here. All right, and I hit enter. I can double check by doing a git remote -v, and yes, there it is. So now I should be able to do my git push -u origin, Master, again, most of you will have main. All right, mine's a little older, so it's got master. It should spin for a second. There you go. And if I go back again out to GitHub and refresh, there's practice. So everything that I've done up until this point is out there. All right, I can add a README. So it says Murach C# 8th edition textbook, extra exercises PDF, something like that. Commit changes, that should be good. All right, now I've got to do one thing that I will do is I'm going to put this and I will push this back out there again because I want to go back and fix the error that I had in the factorial program. So I'm going to fix that. All right. And probably what I'm going to do, this is, in my opinion, such a simple interface. I'll build the interface. So tomorrow, all we'll have to do is copy the text, the code into it. All right. And then we can start right away because I want us to be able to go in right away and work on some of the ones for the assignment. Like I said, we'll get a maximum of 5 of these done tomorrow. All right. And then whatever time is left, you'll have to work on this. Okay. And Wednesday, either Wednesday, I'll give you the pretest, and Thursday will be a lab day, or Wednesday will be the lab day, and Thursday I'll give you a pretest. And then Friday, you'll have the actual test itself. All right. As always, if you have any questions, please email me at jpscott@rankin.edu. And there is one more last thing I want to say. Sorry about that. That is, I've shown you this before. This is my picture of inside Rankin. Okay. Yours is going to be different. I've got different things in here than you do. But once I log in, like you probably don't have a faculty tab, etc. But I want to show you this, and I may have shown you this on day 1. Now, if either, all right, I'm going to go out and check today, but if you have not turned in the first test, or if you have not turned in the homework and stuff that was due, I'm supposed to fill out one of these early alert messages on you. You go in there and I put in the name, the concern, and it'll be something like that, academic grades, severity of the issue. I'm supposed to put high and then put down, Mary Smith did not do the first test and did not turn in any of the homework. All right, like that. And they have to put in my relationship with the student. I'm not going to show you that right now. Have I tried to get a hold of them? I'll say yes. They say how, and I say through email. All right. And then I send this thing out, and what happens is it'll go out to our counselors, and we've got student success counselors as well, and one of them will probably contact you. That doesn't mean you're going to fail the class. It means probably that you are currently failing because you've had homework that you didn't do or a test that you did not take. All right. Okay. With all that said, then I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow at 8:05.